36088, and this is my FMP Proposal Pitch. So the basic idea, I know this is a lot of text, but I'll basically talk through it. So I intend to have a rhythm game where the player is fighting off aliens from their planet, and they're a musically gifted assassin, so they listen to music as they kill the aliens. And the rhythm will basically be the aliens in formation coming to attack the planet, and you'll need to press different keys depending on where the aliens actually are. There'll obviously be different mechanics and dynamics, but I will talk through the target audience and everything first. So the target audience, I actually realised I didn't finish writing it, but it's okay because I already know everything that I'm going to say. So the target audience is aimed for 13 to 15 year olds. This is because the game will be quite complex to play. It will kind of be like an upgraded Fortnite festival, basically. And it is going to be for a more Western audience because of the rhythmic tendencies and stuff. I do know rhythm games are quite popular in an Eastern audience, but I feel like visually and stylistically this will be aimed at more of a Western audience, and it will be for the group, the socio-economic group of like E, the lowest class, because because it's been aimed for teenagers, they will have a job presumably, and they'll be more inclined to spend their income on games and things like that, as opposed to paying board, which might come later on. And it will also be aimed for women, but I am going to try and make it more diverse by adding a male character as well that the people can choose between. But the reason it's morely for women, is because of the bright colour palette, which will be shown in a second. And the keys that the player will need to use are D, F, J, K, and L, depending on which row the aliens will actually go in. And yeah, so. Oh, I'll also have it in 2D and pixel art, which you can see from certain assets on the board. I've chosen to do a quite neon colour palette because I feel like it's very fitting of the rhythm genre, as you can see in this exhibit, that one and that one. And so this is the colour, the new board that I made, and I feel like the colour palette will captivate the target audience, and I will make the aliens less bright so they can be focused on as well and seen more easily, so it's not just a massive wave of neon colours, there is some differentiation between it. I do also plan on composing all of the songs myself using FL Studio, and I think I might use a Vocaloid software to produce any vocal things that it may need, so that I don't have to sing myself. These are the games that I will be looking at analysing. So Friday Night Funking is because of, like, you can alter the keybinds and things like that, and it's also because I want to have the characters, like, you can actually see the characters performing, and you can see the aliens coming in. On the next slide there's a level plan, but I'm going to have an alien general be in one of them, and then it will be like him directing the troops into which rows to go. I'll be analysing Mustache for their mechanics and dynamics, and Fortnite Festival as well for the same thing, where you need to press the keys in time with the beats coming towards you. And then in terms of art style, I've chosen to go with Blasphemous 2 for the aliens because I want to really challenge my pixel art and try and make the aliens look more visually detailed, because I know that I don't do that very often in my pixel art. I normally go for a more simplistic style. And I've also chosen to look at Hyperlight Drifter as well for the environment, because I'm going to have it be in a woody environment. And this is like some colours that I might use, that's what I've added in as well. So this is like a rough level plan. I know it's not in immense detail, but just something that I put together. So this would be the player and the character, and and then obviously if they chose to use the male one, then it would be the male avatar. They have a microphone here for if they are singing the song, and these are the guns. I know they're not very well drawn, but they will be in the actual game. And I'm planning on having them shoot across actually at the alien general, which is here in camouflage. This will be the scenery, and this will be the path that the aliens are following. So then the aliens will come on beat, and then say it's this one, you'll have to press the L key, this one is the F key, this one is the D key, when they all get there in time with the music. And I'm also going to try and do it so I use a certain file type, a MIDI file type, so I can export the actual maps of the music, so the player can actually choose which instrument they use. So if they don't want to do vocals, no, I want to do bass, okay, here's the bass map, and you can kill the enemies and the bass instead of that specific song. And then obviously I'll do different songs, so then there'll be a bunch of varied gameplay elements that the player can use instead of just having to rinse and repeat the same song over and over and over again. And I've also added my skill set here as well, just to reinforce why I'm doing this. So I'm fairly confident in the Unity software as a whole, being able to make things work in there. I can kind of problem solve, but sometimes I do need assistance with that, as in why things are going wrong if I've not assigned something correctly. But I still say I'm fairly decent. And then I'm also quite good at pixel art. Now this game I'm going to set predominantly in pixel art. The only thing that might not be in pixel art is some of the scenery, just to give it a bit of differentiation. But other than that, the majority will be in pixel art, and there is a reason I've chosen to do this, and this is because pixel art is my strongest artistic skill, and I have spent the most time refining it for this moment, so that my final major project looks very visually appealing and stylized in my style. I did add Maya onto here, but obviously I'm not going to be doing any 3D modelling in this project, so I won't be talking about Maya. And I added FL Studio as well, which is a music development software that I use to create music. I have only recently started to dabble in this, but I'd say I'm fairly confident with my skills because I did already have previous experience with composing music for Online Sequencer. I also composed all of my soundtrack for my last FMP as well, which was nice. And I also did GCSE music, which taught me some of the theory of it as to like how the notes work together. So I'm hoping to translate that across into my project. And then my Visual Studio coding skills are at a 1 star, but that has not discouraged me this project. I know that I am not the best coder, but I also know that there are an abundance of tutorials on YouTube that I can watch which will have the code that I need, that I can like pick apart and take what I do want to use. So I think that will help me, and obviously I'm not going to be doing all the programming by myself, and even if I were, and if I had any issues, I can still ask the other people in the class, like Louise Cohen. I could even ask Tommy for help if I was having any scripting issues. But yeah, so that's why I've chosen to do a project like this, because it works to my strengths, and the only weakness that's really included is programming, but even still I can mitigate any threats with that. And in terms of my evaluation and my production, so I'm going to make sure that I take the audio recordings of when I'm developing things like my music and just putting the scene together, drawing up assets, things like that. And then I'll write about it and I'll take screenshots using the snip tool and other things, and I'll put links to any tutorials that I used as well, so that you can see which parts of my game I got from where, so I'm not just taking credit for it all. And then in terms of my actual evaluation, I think I'll be doing it as an audio project, because last projects we had to do it as an audio recording, and I would say that went quite well. It took about a tenth of the time to do. I could really vocalize everything that I was thinking of, and I had notes briefly written so I wouldn't forget anything that I would talk about. So yeah, I'd say that is the strategy going forward that I will use. Are there any questions?
I had to think about which which of the theories that this project you think would either adhere to or challenge?
I think that it would adhere to the narratology versus ludology debate, because there's not really much story going on in the game apart from your planets invading all the aliens. So it mostly relies on the gameplay, and then that therefore links to the mechanics and dynamics and aesthetic, because then I'll be merging those all in the game as well, and really focusing on having intricate gameplay, but also with visually appealing assets and things like that.
I'd encourage you to have a look at recap Neil's theory of genre repetition and difference, because essentially your game idea is Space Invaders the musical. So that's not a knock on it at all, but that's something I would, encourage you to perhaps have a look at there, how you take in some of those mechanics. And again, with the pixel art, you're essentially doing like a HD remake of it with a rhythm game kind of underneath it all. So that's quite cool. It's a very, very ambitious idea. There's a lot of things you are personally undertaking on this. So I would suggest to get to the demo stage of it quite quickly, making sure that you've got, a placeholder, a couple of music tracks in there that you can use that are working in sequence with a beat. If you can give that to program effectively, so you basically drag and drop a music track in, and it'll give the characters or the animations there, synchronize them up to the beat of the song or whatever. Before you start making your own songs, which will probably take a while to compose and think about and all that kind of stuff. So try and get it to that stage first would be my advice. But yeah, I think it's going to be a really fun idea. I can't wait to see it in action. So I'm happy to let you rip on with it. But as I said, it's quite an ambitious idea. So make sure the contingency plans are there if you can't get all the levels that you want or all of the characters that you want. Having I can't really imagine you'd have more or less grade outcome out of it if you had one main character, one bad character, versus if you had 5 of each. At what point the diminishing returns kick in? Obviously, these are all great things to add in if you get time and can refine and expand, but focus on getting the core of it working effectively. Don't spend 3 weeks designing all these characters if you only ever have time to implement one anyway. Do you see what I mean?
Yes. Thank you.